Hey, good evening. Hope everybody's having a good weekend. It's hard to believe it's almost October here. It's starting to feel a little bit dry out there, and yeah, there's a little crescent moon out there. Went out there with a camera and tried to get some shots, and it's pretty nice. A few mosquitoes out there, but yeah, and it's probably about 3 or 4 weeks from now we're going to be down in the 50s and 60s here. So getting towards the very end of summer. And let's take a look at what's going on elsewhere. One story I've been following, of course, is Puerto Rico, and you can see it right there. This is a nighttime shot on September 18th. This is from the Suomi satellite there, and you can see the glow here from the street lights, and the you can basically see the electricity grid there. Same on these other islands, but there's the hurricane right there coming up towards Puerto Rico. And then on the 19th, we see it coming across Dominica there. And on the 20th, almost to Puerto Rico here, and you can see the lights of San Juan right there. Then there's the 21st. And it appears San Juan does have some power there from what I can see here, but you can see around the rest of the island there looking a little bit dark there. Some areas looks like maybe in a ring, a little bit of electricity there. So some places are getting power, but from what I saw here, 80% of the transmission and distribution infrastructure is down, and a lot of the residents can't even acquire food or water, and looting has begun in some areas. And let me show you a few pictures of what's been going on there in Puerto Rico. This is some of the damage there. This is from Ricardo Rossello, the governor there, taking pictures from a helicopter there, and that's one bit of damage there. That looks almost like F0, F1 type tornado damage, kind of like, I mean, it is hurricane wind damage, but it does have that appearance of, you can see how it's taken off roofs, and yeah, there's entire roofs gone here. As far as the electricity, this is one of their solar farms here. You can see there's a lot of problems there. And this is some of the transmission towers there. And you can see how they're all crumpled up there. So a lot of problems there. They did get the ports open, and 5 of the airports are running. And they're starting to bring in relief there, but one of the commissioners there thinks that Puerto Rico has been set back about 20 or 30 years from all that damage. Let me take a look at the chat here, and See what's going on here. Got our Sunday night crowd here. Mike Bexley was hoping to make it in, but has an early start in the morning, hoping to catch up tomorrow. Carl Berghoff says Packers won today in overtime after trailing 21-7 at halftime, so he's happy. We have Alexi and Stephen R. Ron Chalfant happy about the Packers there. 78 degrees where Ryan is there in Miami. Electric Dog is with us, and Alex Front and Mike Estwick. Fred Reamer up there in North Dakota getting a little bit of the cold weather. Justin Pulliam is here, and Thomas Copeland. Taco Bell and Coeur d'Alene. 80, was that 60 and partly cloudy. Justin liking the intro. David Moore joining us. Fred Reamer can't wait until the Packers-Vikings game. Looking nice in Central Texas there from Ryan. Lovely day where Lexi is there in Central Texas. 1 inch where Fred is. And a little discussion there about the football game. And Mike Estwick says they've got 49 degrees there in Denver. Yeah, let's check out the weather situation. And I've got the infrared satellite imagery, and there's the remains of Maria spinning around out here, Category 2 storm. And let's bring up that NHC graphic. Category 2, 90-knot winds there, 947 millibars, and moving north at 8 knots, moving very, very slowly to the north. And the track looks like that's going to take it right off Cape Hatteras there. So it's not looking like it's going to be a problem there for the East Coast. And this track seems to support the European model. So we're going to look at that European model since it does seem to have a pretty good handle. The GFS was trying to take that more inland from what we saw over the past couple days. Here in Texas, we've got a southerly sort of southeast gradient. And it looks like a lot of this is kind of like recycled polar air coming from the Carolinas across the Florida Panhandle and back into Texas. And another way we can look at that is with digital atmosphere. And there's the current plot there. We got 85 over 64 there at DFW. And I was noticing how it felt very dry outside when I was getting those shots. And yeah, dew points are in the low to mid 60s where we're at here. And that shows you how some of the air has been recycled there from the southeast U.S. where things have been a little bit drier. We do have that front coming in from the north, and we can see that. There it is, 40s and 50s up there in the Dakotas, and very stout north winds, bringing that cold air down already through Colorado. 48 degrees there in Denver, 54 at Trinidad, and looks like the leading edge of that cold air mass. Let's see if we can find that. Looks like it's south of Omaha, and just north of Dodge City, south of Trinidad, and looks like it is through the Four Corners area, about right there. And looks like it has cleared a lot of Arizona there. You can see the north winds. Phoenix cooled down to a very frigid 83. So I'm going to probably place the front something like this right here. The core of the warm air, that is over New Mexico, right in this area here. And you see this theta ridge right here. That's the warm air mass. It extends from about Deming up to Albuquerque and up into the Alamosa, Colorado area. So the front is not quite through there. Leading edge, pretty much like that. And this is probably all Pacific air. And the core of that air mass, looks like that's probably over Idaho, northern Utah, out in that area there. And you can see the north winds down the San Joaquin Valley. That's a good sign there of polar front passage through California. And also the northeast winds there at Las Vegas. This time of year, winds are normally out of the south-southwest there at Las Vegas. Okay, no thunderstorm activity we have to really worry about. The upper level patterns, we'll take a look at the hemispheric plot, and lots of troughing there on the east coast. We'll bring that up to the current date. And this indicates that probably the core of the polar air is right over eastern Idaho into northern Utah right there. And around the periphery of that, we've got the jet, and that runs from off the California coast up through New Mexico and up to the Dakotas, like that right there. And then off to the east, we've got the ridge. That's over Quebec, Ontario, and the Great Lakes. So we're probably going to find some warm weather there. And let's see if that is the case. Well, we can see lots of 70s in that area. 78 in central Michigan there. 79 in Detroit. And I don't see any 80s. But I know earlier today, for sure, we had 80s. Things have cooled down a bit. So, yeah, warm weather out to the east and cold weather out to the west. So pretty cut and dry there. And in between, there's some showers there. And you'll probably notice I'm using the Ecology DuPage site. This is a good place to get charts. And one thing that I like about them is they've got the isentropic maps, which we'll be using more of as we get into winter. And there's the isentropic maps off to the left. And we don't use this too much in the warm air masses because convection really interferes with these fields. These are best back behind the fronts. So we might be able to get a little bit of use out of that in the western U.S. Topography is going to also interfere, but let's take a look. Okay, the 294 level, that's at about the 775 millibar level right there over Utah, and we go up to higher levels. I'm going to have to explain this because I know this is probably new stuff to a lot of you guys. But what we're looking at here is the density field. As we go down to lower Kelvin values, we're going lower into lower parts of the atmosphere. Because with increasing height, you have higher potential temperature and you get in higher and higher heights. And what we're seeing here is kind of like the topography of the isentropic surfaces. Air masses like to conserve their potential temperature, so without any diabatic effects in play, they're going to follow these surfaces. So over the cold air, they're going to be riding over the top of that like a big old dome over the top, and then where we have warm air, they're going to go down lower. So what we're seeing here is a little bit of descent, a little bit of isentropic descent on the backside over Colorado, and that's going to clear out the skies there a bit. And then on the other side over Idaho, we've got a little bit of isentropic lift. So the wind is flowing from lower levels here to higher levels over the cold dome right there. And these black lines, these are calibrated in millibars. So there's the 1025 millibar level there, and then once we get up here, this is 700 millibars, so that's up at about 10,000 feet. So we'll use more and more of these as we get into winter, but we'll just kind of bring some more of those graphics up as we get into the following next week. So the 250 millibar chart, this is up at 34,000 feet, showing that low pressure area, low heights aloft, up at 34,000 feet over the cold air mass there in Idaho. And then on the south side of that, there's that jet that we were talking about. So with that ridging over the Great Lakes, that's where we have that warm air in place in that region. So wind speeds coming up very slowly in the Great Plains. And with that, we're going to see more storm organization and more long-lived cells as we bring out that stronger wind. But with south winds at the low levels and south winds aloft, we've got kind of a unidirectional profile here. Not much shear there. We do have speed shear, but not very much directional shear. So the photographs are going to be kind of long and kind of straight. And that's very conducive to splitting cells. The surface chart looking like this. Low pressure there up in northern Minnesota, and you can see the front kind of trailing through Colorado, and we've analyzed that all the way down to Arizona. So behind that, there's all the cold air up in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Idaho. And I guess this is probably a good segue into the upper level charts. There's the 500 millibar chart just showing the low pressure area aloft, low heights aloft over that area in Idaho. And let's see here. I guess we can take a look at some SCUTs. You know, why not? Let's take a look at El Paso. We know that they're ahead of that front. In fact, yeah, here we go. So there's the frontal analysis. El Paso, that's going to be right ahead of that front. And we're going to also look at Las Vegas and Flagstaff back behind the front. So let's check that out. El Paso. Let me see if I can bring up the 0Z. We'll get the SCUTs from about an hour ago. Okay, so here they come. Here's El Paso. So this is showing the very steep lapse rate there. Very warm air. And in the lower levels, we can see temperatures there close to 80 to 85 degrees. Southwest winds all through the column. I don't know if you guys can see that. Yeah, there it is. Looks like I'm in the way here. Yeah, there we go. So you can see the southwest winds in the low levels, and up aloft, 90 to 100 knot winds with that front approaching. And we got a little bit of an inverted V there. So if we had just a little bit more moisture there, we would see some high-based showers there in El Paso. So let's go a little bit further west. We'll go to Tucson. They're back behind the front. And we don't see too much evidence of the cold air. We just see kind of like the lower level temperatures cool off, shift a little bit more to the left there. But we see northwesterly flow there up at 800 to 900 millibars. So that's bringing some of the cold air in. We'll go to Las Vegas. And there, again, kind of a dry sounding. Where'd it go? Okay, yeah, there we go. A little bit cooler. Surface temperatures there in the lower 70s, and almost a dry adiabatic column because there's a lot of cold air right there from about 5,000 up to 10,000 feet, very cold air. So if you're on top of Mount Charleston, which is one of the mountains west of Vegas, 10,000 feet, that's going to be about 700 millibars. Your temperature up there on Mount Charleston is going to be below freezing. So yeah, look at that. They're -2 Celsius, 28 degrees Fahrenheit with that very strong northwest wind there. So that's where the cold air is. And we can go up a little bit further north up to Elko. And this kind of takes us into the heart of the cold air. And yeah, we can see temperatures up there at about 10,000 feet, well below freezing there. It's not a super cold air mass because it's not really that time of year, but that's kind of what we're seeing right there. Anyway, so we'll just go ahead and move on and look at the model data and see what's going to happen over the next few days. And we'll start with the European model because it's been very reliable. So there's Maria off the coast. Let me fix this graphic here. I'll get myself out of the way just a little bit there. Okay. There's Maria off the coast of northeast of Bermuda, 953 millibars this morning. And then for tomorrow morning, we're going to see it approaching Cape Hatteras there. The GFS had really pulled that in pretty far to the west, but the European model appears to be keeping that about 100 miles, 200 miles offshore there. 959 millibars, so slowly filling, probably a Cat 1 to Cat 2 storm there, maybe Cat 1. But becoming extratropical, and there it goes. That's going to be out of the picture there by Friday and Saturday. So let's see what's happening elsewhere around the country. There's our front this morning. By tomorrow morning, we're going to see the front emerging into Kansas and starting to clip Dalhart, Texas there. By Tuesday, it will be sinking very slowly. This is a very slow-moving front coming into Oklahoma City there, into Midland. And very slowly you can see the gradient starts shifting around to the northeast there through Texas. So the day before that, on Tuesday, you can see we had kind of a southeast flow there. And then on Wednesday, we've got kind of a northeast flow, a little bit different there. Okay, so high pressure there over Nebraska, that's pushing the cold air in. And then for Thursday morning, the front is all the way down to the Gulf. Cold air advection in Texas and all through the southern U.S. So cold air mass pretty much dominating most of the U.S. And here comes the 1031 millibar high out of Canada. That'll keep things pretty cold. And the track of that will go, of course, into the northeast U.S., so things will cool down quite a bit there. Return flow is not evident in Texas at all, so we're going to stay pretty mild, dry, cool nights through the weekend. There goes a little bit of Alberta Clipper there through the Great Lakes. Develops over Lake Superior. We're getting close to that season where we have storms on the Great Lakes. The ocean waters, or the lake waters, they are very warm. And we all know what happened to the Edmund Fitzgerald there over Lake Superior. So getting into October and November, that's the season for that. Pressure falls in the eastern U.S. or the western U.S. there early next week. So we'll be looking for another system coming together. So you see that right there. Low pressure there in the Columbia Valley. High pressure there in British Columbia. So that's another system starting to come together. And if it was December and January, we would probably see some snow there in Vancouver and Seattle with that kind of pattern. And that progresses eastward, and looks like more fun for the Great Plains there. Okay, we'll compare that with the GFS. There goes Maria off the Carolina coast on Tuesday. We see the front slowly sinking there into Oklahoma. A few showers developing along that front. Have a little bit of moisture feeding up into that frontal zone. And you can see the effects there of the upslope flow in Amarillo, Lubbock, Tucumcari, and Trinidad there. So this is on Thursday. So very persistent upslope flow. It shifts south as the high moves to the south, and that kind of shifts all the precip into the Big Bend area, the hill country, on Friday and Saturday. And then things cool off. And not much weather going on. Looks like a little bit of a depression there in the southern Gulf there. Something going on. And then we have kind of a reinforcement of that cold air on Saturday and Sunday. So it's going to stay pretty mild. And then there's that next system coming together there. And it's kind of hard to find it with the isobars, but you can definitely see that with the thickness field. See those red lines there? It's all piled up there in northern Nevada and Oregon. That's the next front coming together there. So, and you can see snow in the higher elevations of British Columbia. And looks like the main track of that's going to be directly to the east. And then around Friday, that's where we see the next system coming together, and that's more in the Great Basin area. So this is where things get pretty active there in Nevada and Utah around the 7th and 8th. And then that emerges into the plains around the 10th. That's getting way out there. And yeah, there's another system coming together in the Gulf of Mexico. So we're going to have to watch for some hurricane potential. And that's not a Cape Verde system. This looks like something coming out of Nicaragua or Belize or the Yucatan down there. So that's a ways off, 384 hours out. This is the 10th. So we know that the Gulf probably will be active around that time frame, but we just don't really know whether this is going to come together or who's going to be threatened. So about all we know is we'll just have to kind of keep a watch on the Gulf. And in the meantime, we've got a succession of fronts coming out of the Pacific there, so pretty active there in the western U.S. And that's probably about all I got there. So let me take a look at the chat. October surprise, according to Ryan there. Isentropic analysis, Fred's liking that there. Ryan says the first week in October, the Great Plains is supposed to get hit with the first severe weather. Second season chapter of the Alley rolls forward. So, yeah, let me see if I can nail down some of that severe weather there. Yeah, I don't see anything coming together until maybe around the 10th. We're kind of dominated by that high pressure there in the eastern U.S. We will have a few thunderstorms. Looks like around Monday and Tuesday in western Oklahoma there, but there probably will be a little bit of severe weather potential with that because we have very strong southwesterly flow. So you see that jet right there. That means a lot of bulk shear. That'll be stretching out the photographs. And let me see if I can bring up a photograph there. So this is a 24-hour forecast for tomorrow midday. And there you can kind of see, it looks like the mid-level flow is actually kind of weak there, but you can see the top part of the photograph there, the upper troposphere, really stretching that out into the 70 and 80 knot range there. And there it is, 70, 80 knots. And then you can see the 700 millibar winds, only about 20 to 25 knots. So if we're looking for really good organized severe weather, we like to see that a little bit stronger, and that helps really stretch things out in the lower part of the photograph. As it is right now, everything is kind of jammed together in the lower parts right there. So severe weather potential there, probably a little bit isolated, I would think. But wow, look at those steep lapse rates there. It's almost dry adiabatic all the way up to about 10,000 feet there in Lubbock. Then let me just pull a quick evening sounding, maybe around the Amarillo area. This is going to be right around Pampa. Very stretched out photograph up here. Yeah, it looks like, let me see if I can zoom this in for you guys. Yeah, see a little bit of a very strong southeasterly flow in the 0 through 1 kilometer layer right there. So you see that right there, a little bit of curving in the photograph. Yeah, probably a little bit of severe weather potential there. Winds out of the southeast. And that's stretching out this portion here. And the storm motion is going to be to the east about 20 knots there. So yeah, we're stretching out a little bit of storm relative helicity there. And let's see. STP, that's going for marginal severe there. And it looks like the main contributor to the severe weather potential is going to be the Cape. Yeah, Cape running about 1,000 to 1,500. Anyway, that's what's going on tomorrow. So if we have any thunderstorms going on, we will check that out on tomorrow's webcast. Okay, that's probably about all I've got. Not much going on tonight, so that's about as much as I can really tell you. Mike Estwick will take lake effect snow forecasting any day of the week, as opposed to doing winter forecasting. And Mike says the isentropic maps become key in the cold season because you don't have the warm air heat domes to really stick out and show you where to guess for storms. All right. That's probably it for tonight. Let me get that music going. All right, there we go. I will talk to you tomorrow. Hopefully you have a good rest of the evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.